Hi. A lot of us want to be learning Python because we hear that Python is one of the very good tools, the language to do algo trading. And I'm going to be taking some effort in teaching you the basics of Python. Not really the complete end-to-end algo trading that we will talk about later, but right now, if you want to start your journey to learn Python, so the first question is, how do I install Python? And then how do I start using it? While there are lots of other things, but if you really want to just learn Python, you don't need to get into all that hassle. You must be having a Google account. Go to drive.google.com, very simple. Click on new, go to more, and here you will find Google Collaboratory. If you don't, then click on connect more apps and then select Google Collaboratory. And that is where you just need to search collab, and Collaboratory will come, and you just need to select this particular item. It is already installed for me, so I don't need to do that. And when you do this, you are going to be getting a complete working Python environment. Python, there is a concept of notebook. It creates a notebook where you can write specific code. You can also write text if you want, and then that particular code that you would write, you can also execute it here. So what I'm going to be doing is, for this particular class, I'm going to be going directly to one of the notebooks that I have created, and I'm going to be taking you through. If you want to learn the basic commands of Python and other things, w3school.com, this has got really good material, very nice material. Let's talk about what I'm going to be covering today. We will be talking about data types, different data types in Python. We are going to be talking about the functions or the action that you could do it on the data. Any programming language, if you are going to be researching or learning, there is first one thing that you have to define your variables. Variable is nothing but data. If you get the stock data, that becomes one of your data. And then if you are going to be doing action on that data, for example, I want to find out moving average. So moving average, I need to do some action. I have to look at last 20 items and then take average of that. So that action is what we will be looking at. How do we do processing on that data? Okay. So starting with the very basic thing, if you want to put in comment, you put it always with a hash sign. And there is also another way of putting in comments with triple quotes. It could be single quotes or double quote, but we will be talking about it little later. To run a particular cell, you can either click on this particular bar, and when you click on that, it will first get connected. It will show you on here, it will show you how much of RAM you are using, how much of disk you are using. And then once it is run, it will put a tick mark here saying how much time it took to run it. Okay. So then this is the way you would put a text item here. If you want to add a particular item here, just click on text and it will give you a text box where you can, this is where you can add text. And then to complete it, you put control enter very quickly. Control enter would execute that cell, or shift enter. Shift enter, what it will do is it will take you to the next cell. So this is another cell that we have. We are going to be talking about different data types, numbers, strings, printing, other things. Okay. So very basic thing, calculator. Computers were calculators before. So if I need to do 10 plus 10, I'm doing control shift enter, so that I run this cell and I go to the next cell. So 10 multiplied by 3 I could do, 11 divided by 2 I could do. Now 11 divided by 2, when I do, it gives me 5.5. If I put in double slash, then it will give me a whole number. Okay. And then percentage will give me the remainder of the divisions. For example, 10 percentage 2 is going to be 0. Then next one, if I do 2 raised to 3, this is 2 power 3. And then I can also put in things in bracket to give the priority for the calculations. Very, very simple, just like any other calculator. Now, what happens is when we do these calculations in real time through a program, the program will keep on getting different types of data, right? Whatever data it gets, it needs to be interpreting that data and then doing transaction on that data. So for that, it needs to know what data it is going to be doing. So what we say is call it as a variable. Okay, a variable is a place which can hold some data, and that data can keep on changing, no problem. But when you say a is equal to 2, when you say a is equal to 2, what happens is the thing on the right hand side is taken and it is given value to the left hand side. Left hand side is the variable. Okay, and you can have any variable name as long as it starts with non-numeric value and it does not have special characters. I think underscore dash is allowed here. So what we do is from right hand side, it is giving value to this particular variable name. So for example, I am assigning 2 to a variable called variable underscore name. Here I am assigning 2 to A and 3 to B. Now, when I do A plus B, it is actually going to be adding 2 to 2 and 3 because A is equal to 2 and B is equal to 3. And then I can now do addition on this. And you imagine now, let's say I need to do multiplication. I can do a various multiple different things using this particular variable. Okay, we can also give results to another variable. So for example, C is equal to A plus B. It will not show me the value, but when I type in C, it will give me the value. Now in Python, this particular cell, code cell, can have one command or it can have multiple commands. It really doesn't matter. But then if a particular variable is there at the last line, it will be printing or it will be giving value for that particular variable. It does not give value for the first variable or anything which is previous. So here I type in C and then A, it is only giving me value for the A. So I can have multiple commands, except for this, it doesn't. For example, here I have given two commands in one particular cell. I can write in how much ever code I want to write in a particular cell. Python doesn't stop me. This particular collab doesn't stop me. Okay. So let's talk about different type of variable, which is string. We talked about numbers. Right now we can do numbers and we can do calculations. So when I put in string just needs to be put it into a single quote. This is a string, this is also a string double quote. But then this will not work because there is a apostrophe in between. So what you do whenever a apostrophe is there, you put in double quotes, or you could also use triple quotes, no problem. Now Python, x is equal to Python is and then y is equal to awesome, and then x plus y. Here if I do addition, the addition is going to be concatenation of different variables. Here you look at it, right? So x is Python is and y is awesome, so it is putting Python is awesome as the output as Z. Okay, I hope you are understanding. Now let's talk about the printing. We did x is equal to hello, and then I can type in hello to get the value of hello. I can also say print in brackets, curly brackets, what I want to print, and then it would print the variable. Okay, so for example, I have got here number is equal to 12 and name is equal to Ram, and then print number and print name. Here, unlike the previous time, it would print both the things. Okay, here it doesn't need to be on the last line of the code. However, if I do it like this, it will only print the name Ram. Okay, and number, all the variable is there, it did not print. I need to go to the next cell. I can also concatenate strings like this, print name plus is plus number years old, and it will give me Ram is 12 years old. Sorry, this is not working out because it is taking number and it is string. So whenever you give the number, it doesn't know how to do the string operation on a number. So what you need to do, you need to convert this number into a string. How do I do it? Simple, string of number. Give me a string of number and it will still give me a, see, it is in double single quotes here, while as number here was without quotes. So now if I do it with string of number, then it will print in Ram is 12 years old. Extremely simple. Second way of printing it, You can have the variable assignment with curly braces. There is a better way of doing it than that. And then you give format and then give values. So first one is name and the second one is number here. So that is how it is printing. I hope I am going a little faster. If you think I am going faster, please listen to it one more time. Uh, Instead of doing this, I can also give variable assignments X and Y. X is Y years old in curly brackets, and then X is equal to name and Y is equal to number. This is much more readable, and this is what I would recommend you to be using. Next data type, list. So if you look at the list is basically a number of strings or number of strings or number of numbers. Okay, put it into a square bracket. So I can have 1 2 3 as a variable. This is a list. Now I can also have a list inside of a list. So I can say A, B, and then the third item is not just C, but it is a list itself. Okay, I can give variable assignment of the list. My list is 1 2 3. Now the beauty, instead of putting in A is equal to 1, B is equal to 2, and C is equal to 3, we put in my list is equal to 1 2 3. So what I can do is now I can add more items to the list. When I say append D, my list becomes a 1 2 3 and then D. Then I want to select a particular item. Here Python always starts counting with 0. Most of the programming languages you would see, they would start counting with 0. So the first item here is always 0. And the last item here will be 0, 1, 2, and 3. So if I say my list of 0, it will give me the first item, which is 1. My list of 3 will give me the fourth item, not the third item, fourth item. And Python also has got reverse counting. In reverse counting, what it does is it takes the last item as -1, last but one item as -2, -3, and so on and so forth. So if I want the last item, I can give -1. If I want last but one item, I can give -2, which is 3. Second one, I can add specific two items. Let's say my list 1 and my list 2. My list 1 was 1 and my list 2 was 3. Correct? No, sorry. It is 2 and 3. 1 is 2 and 2 is 3. So that gets added for 5. I can also have list of list. Okay, so for example, here I created the list of list, and then my list of 3 is full array. Okay, full list, which has got 10, 20, 30, 40, and 10, 100, 200, 300. Now let's say third or fourth. So third has returned me everything, and then 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 will return me the full item. Okay, which is 100, 200, and 300. And then second out of that is going to be third item, which is 300. Correct? So simple. The beauty of these lists is that I can have a list of huge numbers. Let's say I want to have transaction data for last 20 years. I can put it all in list and I can go one by one. Dictionaries, very similar to list. The only difference is dictionary is always a key value pair. When I say key value pair, I can call a particular value with the key one. Here, for instance, I used to look at my item of 3 or my item of 1 or my item of 2. Now I can do it with the key instead of 1 2 3. So let's say this is how I define a dictionary. Dictionary always is curly braces, and then there is no equal to sign, but there is a uh, um, double dots, semicolon there. Okay, colon there. I'm so sorry. And then my dictionary of key 1, it will give me the value of 10. Okay, let's say let's go ahead. My items is pens is 3 and books is 20. Then I can say I have 3 pens and 20 books. Okay, so if you do this, it will give you I've got 3 pens and 20 books. So simple, right? My items of pens is equal to 30. Now I'm going to be changing that 3 to 30, and then my items will become 30 and 20. Okay. Booleans are basically just true and false. True is a boolean with T capital, and false is a boolean with F capital. So the type of true, it will say it's a boolean value. Whenever we are going to be giving conditions, I'm going to be expecting an output as a Boolean. Okay. So this is the string. String will always show as str. So here a is equal to 2, b is equal to 3, and a double equals to b. Whenever I say double equals, it is going to do comparison. What are the comparison operators? We have got double equals, you have got less than, you have got greater than, and less than equal to, greater than equal to. Very, very simple. Okay. So when I say a is equal to b, it is going to return a Boolean value of false. Okay. Or a is less than b, it is going to return a Boolean value of true. If I say type of that particular variable, it is going to say Boolean. Okay. Next one, tuples. Tuples are things which are not going to be changing in value. Okay. Unlike list, we could reassign the data. Otherwise, my tuple of 1 is going to give me 1. My tuple of 1 is equal to 3. This assignment, it will fail, because tuple doesn't allow you to do that. Okay. We could do it with the with everything else, with the list, with dictionaries, but with tuple I really cannot do it. Now let's talk about comparison operators. Okay. For first one, variable type assignment. Before that, I can say a is equal to 10 plus 3, and then it will automatically define it to be an integer. And if I give 10 plus 10.1 plus 30, it will automatically define it as float. So it is very intelligent. However, if I try to do 10 plus quotes a, now it doesn't know how to do it, because one is integer and another is string, so it doesn't know how to do it. Comparison, we talked about greater than 3, greater than equal to, less than equal to, equal is equals. So let me just quickly run this. I believe you would know all of these, so I'm not going to be spending too much of time here. Car is equal to bus will be false. Okay. So this is what it is. Now I can club these two different things. 3 is greater than 2, and 3 is greater 2 is greater than 3, and 3 is greater than 2. This is going to be false because it is not there. Okay. So one true and another false will give me false. But if I put or, it is going to be either of them. And because one is true, both of them together with or is going to be true. So similarly, if this or 4 is equal to 4, this also is going to be returning me true. 2 is greater than 3 and 3 is greater than 4, both are false. So or operator also will give me a false answer. Okay. Now let's talk about if, else if. And whenever we want to put in if condition, we need to check something. Okay. And if a is less than b, or if a is equal to b, then you do something. Okay. So that is what is if. And if it is not, then in else you do something. Okay. So in a very simple way, if 2 is greater than or equal to 1, then print yes. Is it? Of course it is. So it will print yes. 2 is greater than or equal to 1. This was true. So whatever you have in this condition, it needs to return a value of a Boolean. Okay. So here 2 is less than equal to 2, print I am inside if, print if is so easy. And then outside if again. So it is going to be printing. Will it print everything? No, because 2 is not less than or equal to 1. It will only print the outside of if. We did this. This will not print me anything. If 4 is less than equal to 5, then print yes. Else print no. So is it less than equal to 5? Yes. So it will print this yes. Correct? It will not go to the else loop. If it was false, then it would have gone into else loop. If 2 is less than 1, then print yes. Else if, so if it is not true, then it will come here, and then it will check for one more if condition. If 1 is equal to 2, then it will print middle. If both the conditions are not true, then it will come down here and then print no. Here, if you look at it, it should print no, because 2 is not less than 1. It will not go. It will go to else if. 1 is not equal to 2. It will also not print this, and then it will go to else and then print this. For loop. Another extremely simple. For loop basically allows you to iterate over different items. Okay, so the most used thing is to iterate it over a list or something similar to a list. So let's say fruits is apple, banana, and cherry, and then I start the magic for X in fruits. So when I say fruits, it is a list of this. And when I say X in fruits, first X value is going to be apple, second X value is going to be banana, and third X value is going to be cherry. And this for loop gets executed once, then second, then third time. Okay. If it had more items, then it will keep on executing it more times. So what I'm doing is print X, which will be apple, and then fruit. Okay. So if I run this, it will print apple fruit, banana fruit, cherry fruit. Okay. So let's say I want to go through a strings. So X in learn to invest. So now when I say this print X, it is going to print every letter in my list. So this a string, it considers it to be a list of letters. Okay. And then it will print everything. Break, when you're going to do for loop again and again and again, some condition comes in and you want to say no, now no more for loop, break it, go to the next line. So that is what it is. So for example, we have X in learn to invest, so it printed learn to invest, but when X is equal to 2, I want it to break, otherwise it will print X. So what it will do is it will print learn, and then when 2 comes, it breaks and it goes ahead. Okay, continue, opposite of break. So here it really doesn't do anything, it will just keep on doing it. But when 2 came, it did not print the number 2. Okay, range. Now a lot of times you don't have a list of items to iterate over. You want to iterate it 10 times, 20 times. So for which Python has created a function called range. Okay, so how you use it? When you say X in range of 4, okay, then what it will do is it will start from the first value, which is 0, and it will not take the fourth. Okay, so it will do 0, then it will do 1, then it will do 2, then it will do 3, and then it will do, that's it. It will not do anything more than that. So for example, this is a sum. So this sum is going to be doing 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3, because I have taken 4 items, 0, 1, 2, 3. That's it. And if I click on sum, it is going to print the sum of 6. 3 plus 2 plus 1, 6. Very simple. Let us say you don't want to start at 0, you want to start at 2. So if I give range of 2 to 7, it will start from 2 and it will skip 7, it will go until 6. So if I print, I'm not doing sum, I'm just printing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's do the sum for this. Okay. So first it was 2, and then I'm only printing X. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then sum of that is going to be 6 plus 5, 11, 11 plus 4, 15 plus 5, 20, which is, computers usually don't make mistakes. Okay, now let's say you don't even want that, you want to increment it by 10. So in the range, I give the third variable called increment, okay, which is 10. So here it will start with 2, then it will plus 10, 12, then plus 10, 22, go on until the number is less than 70, and then it prints me sum. Okay, so same thing here. I don't know why I do that. So it is just giving me the same numbers. Else in for loop. So now you can also do else in for loop. So after it is finished, it will go to the else item. Okay. So here 1, 2, 3, and then it is finally finished. But else will not get executed if you put in a break. Okay. So I have printed X is equal to 2, then break, and then when it will exit. Okay, what I'm doing here is I'm creating 2 lists. First list is red, big, tasty, and fruits is apple, banana, cherry. Now what I do is loop inside a loop. The first loop is for X in adjective, so which is red, big and tasty. And then for every adjective, go for Y in fruits. So Y, when X is red, it will run apple, banana, cherry. Then it finishes, then it goes up here, and then it takes big, and then again apple, banana, cherry. Then finishes it again next time. It goes here, it becomes tasty, and then apple, banana, cherry. Let's print. So first was red, then apple, banana, cherry, red banana, red cherry, then big apple, big banana, big cherry, so on and so forth. So simple. While loops. I would not recommend you to use while loops. If you are using it, use it a little carefully, because there is a chance of you getting into something called as infinite loop. What infinite loop means is the computer keeps on processing, because the while loop doesn't end. So here, for example, I put in I is equal to 1, and then I do I is equal to I plus 1. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm adding 1 to I, and then in while loop, I am checking if I is less than 5. Till the time I is less than 5, it executes. After I is less than equal to 5 or greater than 5, it will skip. So if I print I is this number, and then format I mean, it's very simple. You know it already. So first time I is equal to 1, so it went in. Then it became 2, 3, 4, and then when it became 5, it is going to skip it. And I have just printed the sum. List comprehension. Okay. So here what I've done is I've taken a list, and then X in my list, which will give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I am going to be printing X raised to 2, so X square. Okay. What apart from that, what I'm doing is I'm appending the output of that to a variable called out. Out is a blank list. Okay. So I can always give the output into another list. Okay. So this is how it has run. So first time it was 1, 2, 1, 4, 9, and 16, and that is what it gets appended to out. We will be doing this a lot of times. Okay. And a lot of times you would see a code which is all of this is done in one single line. For example, new list is equal to item square for item in X. Item in X is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that item you're putting in square. It's a very simple way of doing it. A lot of programmers like to save their time coding, so they like short things. Function. Now there are a lot of functions in Python, right? We looked at append, we looked at print, and so on and so forth. What if I want to do something which Python doesn't have code for? So I can create my own function for that. Okay. Function is a block of code which runs when I call it. So first I define a function, and then I call that particular function. So for example, a1 of 2 and sum of a, this is not going to be running it because it is not callable. Okay. The way I would do definition, let's say this is how I define my function. I take a parameter called my param, and then in triple quotes I put it in comment here. You remember the comment, we put it in triple quotes. This is a special way of putting in doc string, document string, and this place where you explain what really the function does. So this my function only prints you have passed whatever param1 you are passing. So let me run this. When I run this, it is not going to execute the function. It does not know what to do because it doesn't have the data. It doesn't know what value of param1 you are going to be passing to it. So if I just type in my function, it used to give me output, but here it is not giving me output, but it is just saying less than, greater than. It is a function called my function. Okay. Then when I run my function with single brackets, it is going to say it is going to run the function. And here my param was the default string for the param1, and that is what it prints. You have passed my param. Okay. Now instead of my param, can I pass new param? Yes, I can. I just need to put it in single quotes here, and then it will say you have passed new param. I can pass any param like this. So let me say pass second param. So whatever variable I pass, it is going to take that variable and do action on that particular variable. It is very simple. It is very useful to make your code systematic and simple. So everything that you want to be doing, you don't need to be doing complex code, do this, then do this, then do this. You put it in smaller bunches, you create functions, and then you call those functions. Okay. Let's say square of x. I define this, and this function can square your numbers and return x of square. So square of 20, it is going to give me 400. Square of 20, I can put it into a variable called out, and out is 40. I can also send multiple parameters. Okay, so here I send x, y, z, and then I'm going to be returning x multiplied by y multiplied by z. Here, if I do 1, 2, and 2, it is going to multiply those numbers. So if I change, let's say 1, 2, 3 and run it, it is going to give me 12. Okay, but it requires 3 numbers. If I give 1 and 2 only, it will not accept. It will give me an error saying you missed one argument. How do I handle it? There is a way of doing it with doing star args. Okay, when I say star args, it will not fix the number of variables that you want to give. For example, I want to give max number of star x, and then I say max of x. This is a function definition. I can say now max x of 1, 2, and 3. It will give me 2. I can just give 2 values. I can give hundreds of values. No problem. It will give me max all the time because it doesn't need the number of arguments, right? It could be any number of arguments. Now, arbitrary keyword arguments. I can also define different keywords. We don't know how many keyword arguments that will be passed into my function. Then I put 2 asterisks before the parameter name. Okay, let's see an example. My function, and I say star star person. Okay, now this person can have a multiple different variables. I don't know what variables those could be. So when I run it, I say first variable is f name, Ram, middle, Sita, L name, lagoon. Okay, now on all these things, I just am interested into person of last name. Last name is this guy. Okay, so whatever last name it is coming in, I just want to print it. But if this guy wants to send every masala to the function, I'm okay with it. So let's run it. It will print his last name is Lagoon. But if I run this without the variable called last name, then it is going to give me an error. Okay, saying that it has not got in the expected key is L name, and it has not got in here. Okay, recursion, I'm going to be skipping it for now because it is something that you would need some time before you start learning. Maybe some other time we will talk about that. Lambda expressions, this is another very useful piece. You may not need to do this, but you will see a lot of code which does it. Okay, so let's say I define a normal function times 2 of variable, and variable multiply by 2 it does, and when I say times 2 of 20, it gives me 40. Now what I do is my function I create as lambda of variable and variable square. Okay, it does exactly the same thing that it was doing in here. So if I do lambda of variable is the input and variable square is the output. Okay, so it says what is the input and what is the output. It will always have one output and it can have multiple inputs. So for example, I give my function lambda x and y 2 inputs and output as x multiplied by y. So if I run my function with 20 and 10, it will multiply these and give me. Okay, so whenever we need anonymous function for a very short period of time, usually converting everything into one single line of code, people use lambda. There is a very classic example here, and just give little bit attention, without which you may not be able to understand. So I defined a function called my multiplier function of n, and then I return lambda of A. A is another input, okay? And whatever that A is, A I'm multiplying with N, my multiplier function. Then what I do is for this function, using this function, I'm creating another function. So that is my doubler. My doubler is my multiplier function of 2. So N I'm putting in 2, or my tripler is 3. So 3N I'm putting in as 3. Now, whatever number I pass, that number is going to be taken as this lambda number, and it is going to be doing doubling and tripling. Okay, so for example, if I do my doubler of 11 or my triple of 11, it will give me 22 and 33. Okay, so I could do it the same with twice. So my doubler is itself is a function with my multiplier function locals with lambda. Okay, and my doubler of 12 is going to give me 24. Map. Map function returns a map object which is an iterator of the results after applying given function to each item of the given iterable, which is list or whatever. So what it does, let's say you've got a sequence of numbers, and then you create a map of my doubler of the sequence. You remember my doubler, we have created a function here. So my doubler of sequence, this creates a map. Okay, and then when it creates a map, that my map I can convert it into list to get me the output in the list format. Okay, how does it help? It helps me just the way my range function helped. So I could do map of my doubler of sequence, and then I can get the x values. You getting the strength of it, right? My doubler of sequence is 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so here my sequence was this. So if I just did my doubler has got multiplier by 2, and my string multiplier of 2 was always concatenation, right? So same string came in twice. But if I want to multiply each of the variable there, I need to be converting into map. Okay, similarly my tripler of sequence, it will print it 3 times. But if I create a map and then convert it into a list, it will triple it and it will print it. Okay, similar thing I am going to be able to do it with a single lambda function. Lambda function, A is the input, A square is the output, and sequence is the input for this map function, and convert it into a list. You are going to be seeing a lot of such pieces, and you will wonder what exactly it is doing. So don't worry, in Python you have got something called as help. So whenever you are not able to understand it, just type in help of map, and then it will give you a complete description. Okay, class map, it makes an iterator that computes functions using arguments from each of the iterables, and then it will give you a whole lot of information. If you don't, Google is always there. Filter, it is same as map, but this is used to filter out values based on the lambda function. So for example, I give lambda function of item is the input, item divisible by 2 and the remainder is equal to 0. So it is going to be giving me the what, the even numbers. Okay, so it is just created a filter, and if I convert that into a list, it is giving me 2 and 4. Methods. Python method is just similar to a function, except that it is attached to an object. Okay, if you do not understand object yet, don't worry. But if you come from the background of Java or whatever object-oriented languages, it is something that would be interested to you. So I give string, hello, my name is Sam, and then I can call a method lower on this particular string to convert everything into a lower. So there are lots of methods which are available already with this, and you could use them. For example, upper, you can splits it with the space. So it has created a list of items. Uh, let's say I get a tweet, go sports, a hashtag sports, and I can split it with the hashtag, and I could get the second item, which is actually the first item. And then I know what the tweet is talking about. We can use all of this to do a lot of data crunching in terms of Twitters or whatever. So let's say next one, my dictionary is key 1 item 1, key 2 item 2, and my dictionary dot keys gives me the list of keys that are there. Okay. My dictionary items will give me the key item pair in the tuple format. List, I can pop out of the list. When I pop it, it takes out the last item. Okay. And after that, if I put in LST, it has popped out 3, and the LST is only 1 and 2 now. Okay. There is a key value pair, which is a dictionary, and then I can do help on X. So the beauty here is I don't need to search for anything else. I have the variable. I just ask help on X, and it gives me the help that it is a dictionary object, and this is how it works. Okay. It's really handy. How to create methods on class? Again, we need to be learning object-oriented programming for that, but I'm just giving you a very simple thing. You create an object which is an instance of a class. So you have to define just the way we defined functions up there. You first need to define a class. So let's say a class is a vehicle class, and I'm putting in this creates vehicles. You need to pass the color, and then I'm creating different definitions. Init is an object which always you should create, which is going to initiate this particular vehicle object, and it is going to take inputs. All the variables here, all the definitions here need to pass the self. Okay. And this passes, apart from self, it passes the color, and then self of color, it stores it into the whatever it takes input as color, it is going to be saving it as self of color. And then when I say start, it is going to start the engine. And when I say show color, it says I am of this particular color, self.color. It's a very simple class, not doing much. So type of vehicle, when I say it is only a type, it's not, it's just an type because it's not yet instantiated. Now let's create a car of black color. So I created a car of black color. So now here car is a main vehicle, and let's say type of car, I would get the output saying that it is a vehicle type. Okay. Now let's start the car. When I say car start, it is going to say starting engine, which was here. Okay. So this method is getting called car.start because now I'm running it for that particular object. Car, show color of the car. It says I am black. Similarly, you've got lots of options, methods which are there on your items. For example, my list is this, and then let's say I want to sort my list. I can just say sort. Sort is a method on the object my list, and it is going to start it. There are a lot of things that you really can learn in Python as basic. If you want to get more details, don't forget W3 School has got a lot of data, a lot of information, but I think this is sufficient for you to start your journey into Python, especially if you want to do algorithmic trading. Cheers.